Hello, everyone. So why don't we get started? I'm going to introduce everyone and we'll get on our way. So welcome to session 3, parallel session 3 of the Humane Entrepreneurship Conference. We have a really great lineup of speakers today. We have Dr. Phillipp Kruse, scientific staff member at TU Dresden. He'll be presenting on what motivates social entrepreneurs, a meta-analysis and predictors of the intention to found a social enterprise. Then we have Dr. Mariya Yesseleva-Pionka. She'll be presenting on she's the Global Certificate Manager at ICSB, higher degree by research supervisor at Excelsior College, and adjunct academic at the University of Technology in Sydney, Australia. And she'll be presenting on sustainability and a green global economy. Then we have Dr. Anand Malawi, who will be joining us shortly. He's co-director and professor at IPOG Business School. He'll be presenting on disadvantaged entrepreneurship or social entrepreneurship, a humane entrepreneurship perspective. And then we have Dr. Norris Krueger, senior research fellow, College of Doctoral Studies, UOPX, and Entrepreneurship Northwest. He'll be presenting on entrepreneurship as if entrepreneurs mattered, changing the narrative on ecosystems in education. So this is very exciting. We have, some great panelists. So I'll hand it over to Dr. Kruse to start us off.
Okay, thank you very much. And also hello from my side. It's great to have so many great colleagues and also, some interested spectators from all around the world here in this session. Yes, I was just sharing my slides. Hope that everything can be seen. Probably a nice nod would be great to notify me if everything is visible. Okay, then I guess let's start with the first presentation today in this parallel session. And as Sky has already announced, it will be about social entrepreneurship, or to be more exact, something about social entrepreneurial motivation. And the main question will be to be answered, which is the motivating essence that drives nascent social entrepreneurs. And the whole presentation will be based on a recently published meta-analysis. And at this point, my best greetings also to my fellow co-authors, Dominika Wach and Jürgen Wegge. Okay, so a little agenda to start with. This will be quite straightforward, I would say, with an introduction to what social entrepreneurship is, just a relatively short summary this is, and also a very short summary on state-of-the-art of social entrepreneurial intention research. Then we will continue with, let's say, the core point also of this presentation, some meta-analytical findings on social entrepreneurial intention antecedents, and then we will finish with some implications for research and practice, and that's what I'm very much looking forward to, a short Q&A in the end. Okay, then let's start with social entrepreneurship, and I guess that you're all aware that social entrepreneurship is not only a part of humane entrepreneurship, but a very much acknowledged tool for the sake of reducing social inequality. And the main reason for this is actually the so-called double bottom line. That's at least what Tracy and Phillips referred to this. And if you're diving deeper into this double bottom line, then it becomes quite evident what this double bottom line is about, namely the combination of entrepreneurial behavior. So it means the traditional entrepreneurial mission of creating financial value for him or herself or the stakeholders with a distinct social mission. So there is something like hybridity in social entrepreneurship, definitely, which is leading to a unique set of features of social enterprises. As you can imagine, there are many different scholars from various set of different disciplines who have considered social entrepreneurship a very interesting discipline, and also this led not only to a rise in interest, but also a rise in output, namely in research output. So in 2018, a very readable study showed that the amount of papers published in social entrepreneurship is definitely massively increasing. But apart from those very interesting insights and also valuable insights that were coming with the increase in research output, there are also some problems that are still persisting, unfortunately. As you have probably heard at times, There are many conceptual papers, qualitative studies, and also anecdotal evidence at times in social entrepreneurship. So empirical research is rather scarce at times. However, what is definitely an empirical driver in the field of social entrepreneurship is social entrepreneurial motivation, or to be more exact, social entrepreneurial intention research, due to relatively high number of empirical publications in here. And this is already leading us to social entrepreneurial intention, a little state of the art, even though it's rather a state of the art of problems, I have to say. So what I've already referred to is that the research output in social entrepreneurial intention is rather empirical, at least compared to the field of social entrepreneurship in general. And some valuable insights have been shown. However, there are three central problems, and if you keep those problems in mind, then you have no trouble whatsoever to follow also the reasons that are coming up for the meta-analysis to be conducted, and also the results of the meta-analysis in the end. Okay, so let's talk about those three different problems for a minute. The first thing, I marked it in bold already, is that something like a comprehensive framework of antecedents of social entrepreneurial intention is relatively hard to find, probably even non-existent, because what is coming alongside the massive increase in research output is a rather fuzzy research output at times. So we're having personality, we're having cognition, and also experience. However, a comprehensive framework to embed all those is yet to be found in social entrepreneurial intention research, at least. And this was also one of the driving forces for the meta-analysis to be conducted. The second problem was that a quantitative summary of research is always good, particularly if you're having a certain amount of empirical research needed, because just imagine you're having 3 studies on proactive personality and the predictive value for social entrepreneurial intention, whereas one having a relatively high value, one with a low value, and one with a middle class value. So which study to take to really quantify the overall true effect, if there is something like a true effect for the proactive personality social entrepreneurial intention relationship. So this is definitely a very important thing to have a quantitative summary of the state of the art in the field. And the third thing is that in many cases, if there's high heterogeneity, particularly in a field, you have to consider moderators, and this is also a very important thing that we'll be talking about in a few seconds. Are there moderators in the antecedent social entrepreneurial intention relationships? So you can think of many different things, let's say economic stage, social influences, or also methodological influences. So this was also one of the driving forces that led to our meta-analysis in the end. So this is it. This was the driver for our research project right here. And now let's dive deeper into the project itself. Probably the most fundamental question to ask is why we decided on meta-analysis and not a review, for example. And we found 3, let's say, convincing reasons, at least from our perspective, that meta-analysis is probably the better way to conduct a study answering or addressing those 3 problems that I've just mentioned. So the possibility to quantify is definitely very important. So you're getting overall effect sizes of single variables, and also you can quantify moderator influence with a meta-analysis. This is not possible with a, let's say, classical review, at least. So this was one definite advantage that we found right here. Then we're also having the possibility to back a framework. You're hearing framework. I will present the framework in minutes. So this is coming up on the next slide, I guess. And also, to put it in a nutshell, it's about a quantitative integration to summarize current knowledge and also guide future research. Talking about quantifying things, here's a little overview about the number of studies and samples as well as participants. So as you can see, we're having some 8,700 participants included in the meta-analysis, 21 independent samples. So this is quite, not that high for meta-analysis, but at least a reasonable number to deal with right here. We did some calculations. So the typical effect sizes, we are using R coefficients here, and also some heterogeneity indicators, Q and I square. And for moderator influence, we also use meta regression to account for this. So now let's take a look at this framework that I've just mentioned right here. This is basing pretty much on the assumption of some constructs being closer to social entrepreneurial intention as others. So as you can see here on the left side and going on the very left of the framework, we are having individual, social, and economic level predictors. An individual level predictor is everything related to a person. We're having personality, cognition, and also human capital, with the assumption that personality is relatively distant from one's career choice, whereas cognition and human capital, you're getting always closer to the very career you're looking for. This is the interior level of influence right here. We're also having two exterior levels, just like social levels. So what people think about your career or your career plans, and also the economic level. So the economic stage. This is pretty much the model we thought of. And we were very interested in how empirically solid this very model is. And in a few seconds, you will find out how solid it definitely was. The second problem was the lack of quantitative summary, and this was what we accounted for with the meta-analysis that I'm going to present right now. Pretty much a collection of numbers, but I will guide you through for a minute. And the most important thing is actually that for personality, just like proactive personality right here, we find significant effects or significant effect sizes. We are finding significant effect sizes also for cognition variables, just like perceived behavior control from fear of planned behavior right here. Also subjective norms. So the social part was also with a significant influence right here. Also, and this is leading us to the moderator question, we found some significant effects for the economic stage. You can see it on the very right of the table. And the economic stage actually acted as a moderator. So this was also in line with our framework that we came up with. However, there have to be more moderators. That's becoming quite clear, taking a look at the I-square values that are enormously high. So the maximum would be 100, definitely a very high score right here in nearly every case. And this is why we decided on a little meta regression to be conducted. We are having some different moderators included, not only economic stage, but going more into detail. And this is just a summary at this point. We're having the type of experience, we're having the sample composition, and also social entrepreneurial assessment. So the way you assess, you measure social entrepreneurial intention acted as moderators right here. Particularly the last one is not really a good message for validity in this very kind of research. So this is definitely needed to be addressed in more detail later on. So as a summary, we're having social entrepreneurial intention antecedents on all levels: personality, cognition, and social influence. We're having a high heterogeneity and different moderators, content variables just like economic stage or also the experience, and also sample composition and type of assessment as well as study-related variables. Just to sum up, with some implications for research and practice, we consider our framework relatively good and also empirically solid as a guideline for future research, and particularly future researchers should consider to conduct studies on social entrepreneurial intention in different economic stages and different cultures. So different countries would be great as an asset for future research right here. And one pressing issue are definitely validity concerns regarding the measurement instrument for social entrepreneurial intention. This has to be addressed very urgently, according to our mind. For practice, we hope that our framework can help to design some some social entrepreneurship courses and also select for them probably. And one of the bullet points, probably from a psychological perspective, is that the effect size for psychological variables is acknowledgeable at least, and probably should be included more in social entrepreneurship courses. Okay, so this is it from the input side. I look forward to the Q&A, and if you'd like to see something on how to contact me and how to get more detailed knowledge about things, then I'm just flipping over the slides, and I'm happy to answer questions right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Philip. Very informative, and I definitely think that we have a lot of questions. People have questions in the chat, so we'll hold them to the end so we make sure that everyone has time to present, and then we can circle back and answer those. But I want to give the floor to Mariya to present her session.
Thank you very much. Thank you once again for such a warm welcome. It is a great privilege to speak at this event, and I would like to thank the International Council for Small Business and Dr. Ayman El-Tarabishi for the invitation. Today, I would like to talk about sustainability and green global economy. Climate changes have initiated many transitions and shifts across government and industry sectors worldwide to reduce the negative impact on the environment. Back in 1987, when United Nations introduced the definition of sustainability, it was emphasized that sustainability is about meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. In early 90s, triple bottom line, also known as People, Planet, Profit, was introduced by John Elkington, who advocated for business reporting, which provides information about the economic, environmental, and social performance of entities. In September 2015, the General Assembly adopted the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development that includes 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Building on the principle of leaving no one behind, the new agenda emphasizes a holistic approach to achieving sustainable development for all. In the past, climate risk was not included in the traditional risk assessment models. These days, economists and financiers recognize the importance of accounting for the climate risk. Robert Ingle, Nobel Prize laureate from the New York University, provided a great example by saying that when you're driving on a foggy day or a smoky day and you see the light flashing in the distance, you don't know what it is. You hit the brakes. You don't go full steam ahead. However, the key question remains profitability and sustainability. Can they coexist? Well, in answering this question, it is vital to emphasize that long-term profits will not matter if there is no planet. Overall, if we continue to underestimate the importance of environmental resources and our role in promoting sustainable behavior, it could lead to the extreme detrimental outcomes for the planet. Thus, there is an immediate urgency for educating all the stakeholders concerning the climate risk and their role in promoting sustainability. On this slide, we see the global picture of the carbon footprints. According to OECD data, many countries are taking action, but progress is insufficient to achieve the goals of the 2015 Paris Agreement. Renewable energy is increasingly used, but still accounts only for 11% of energy supply and 27% of electricity production in OECD. Which means with every new business venture leadership comes a great responsibility for making climate-friendly decisions. Climate and environmental impacts will be at the heart of global finance. We are already witnessing green startups, which provide tools that measure storm and flood risks, assess pollution created by businesses, green fintechs, such as digital banks, which allow customers to round up transactions to support tree planting, cashback for using climate-friendly business services or products, green loans for solar energy initiatives, customized analysis of customer spending to highlight their impact on carbon emissions. They also provide various applications and credit cards with the profits going to reforestation projects. Overall, they're raising awareness about climate-friendly projects around various areas. They're also introduce carbon points that can be converted into products or services with participating partners. The public disclosure of information about social and environmental impacts of operations has become widespread since the early 90s, typically among large companies worldwide. The Global Reporting Initiative, the GRI reporting framework, provides guidance on reporting on organizations' economic, environmental, and social performance. It was created for use by businesses of any size, sector, or location. Denmark is going to start the largest construction project in Danish history, Green Energy Island, which will be located in the North Sea, 80 kilometers off the Danish coastline. This artificial island is set to power 3 million European households with the aim to increase it up to 10 million homes. Well, this is not the first project for Denmark. Back in 1991, Denmark already surprised the world with the first offshore wind farm. So, who is the greenest of them all? Let's take a look at this infographic. This information is presented from Yale University. Yale University developed Environmental Performance Index, which measures nations across 32 performance indicators. Well, it's not surprising that we see Denmark ranked as number one. Overall, the top 40 greenest economies are all categorized as high income by the World Bank. The infrastructure costs are one of the reasons why wealthier nations tend to rank better across sustainability measures. So you see as part of the infographics that air quality leaders include Finland, Australia, Sweden, Iceland, Norway. You also see the climate change leaders, Denmark, United Kingdom, Romania, France, Switzerland. All right, so where to next? There is an onset of transformative generational handover of wealth from baby boomers to millennials, with new business leaders becoming increasingly aware of climate risks and choosing sustainability in business operations. Millennial investors are almost twice as likely to invest in businesses and managed funds that target specific social or environmental goals, and 90% of them want sustainable investing as an option within their pension superannuation plan. What we are witnessing these days, a much higher demand for the ESG investing options. The infographic here, the ESG Data Universe infographics, demonstrates that Morgan Stanley Capital International ESG research collects data from a variety of sources, drawing on over 1,000 data points. ESG analysts use artificial intelligence to collect data and assess companies' risks and opportunities, which means they combine ESG ratings and traditional financial analysis, which allows investors to put together a more detailed picture of a company's risks and opportunities. Another research also demonstrates the textual analysis of Wall Street Journal stories over 20 years report that generally climate news is bad news. All right, so let's move on and talk about green and social municipal bonds. The demand for climate-friendly and socially responsible investments is on the rise. Well, originally, sustainable investing started in equities. However, over the years, government and private companies have been issuing various debt instruments to finance environmentally friendly projects. The beginning of the sovereign green bonds era took place in 2016 when Poland issued the inaugural green sovereign bond to reduce the reliance on coal and transition to the lower carbon targets. France became the second country in the world that issued the sovereign green bond back in 2017. with many other governments following the example. China's first batch of green carbon neutral bonds was actually issued in February 2021 with the aim to reduce carbon emissions. So, what are the main barriers to green solutions? Mr. Safendo Mahanti, the Chief FinTech Officer of Monetary Authority of Singapore, presented 5 main barriers to green solutions, which include data, trust, inefficient ledger, business models, green technologies, and government policies. So, what are the necessary steps for implementing green projects? They're summarized by 5 T's, which include taxonomy, technology, transition, transfer of wealth, and taxation. Which brings me to the next slide that actually highlights that there is an urgency in educating entrepreneurs, MSME owner managers, and future business leaders in general on how SDGs require changes to business finance, management, and investment. It is evident that MSMEs collectively are classified as significant polluters globally, and there are increasing requirements for these enterprises to participate in and implement sustainable business practices. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That last thing struck me about the MSMEs being such a big polluter. I never really thought about that. So definitely we'll circle back and ask about that at the end. But I would like to give the floor to Norris to present on his topic.
Thank you.
I think you're muted, Norris.
Aren't you legally required to start muted on every presentation? At least I'm hoping that's the law because I've had that. So let me share my screen. Let's see. It's always fun to do these things. Let's say, let's get this thing. It is okay. And all right, then let's rock this. Hi, everybody. Norris Krueger, recovering tech entrepreneur, passionate educator, obsessive ecosystem builder, and possibly even more obsessive scholar. Having all these hats have led me to some really powerful things at ICSB, and I'm so grateful that ICSB is so involved in it. And what we want to talk about here is changing the narrative that what would do if we focused on developing entrepreneurs, whether than developing the ecosystem or developing the mindset, as if humans really mattered. This is something that, this is Schumacher a long time ago in his book, Small is Beautiful. It wasn't so much about small as are you speaking to, are you helping, are you listening to what everybody wants? And this is something I think is right in our wheelhouse. A couple of sort of contextual stories to get us started. One of them that was very chilling. I was involved in a conference, and the organizer was bragging. I was just so excited that had this great professor doing one of the keynotes who was beloved in that professor's community. The problem is I know that community. I know the top entrepreneurs. I know the top ecosystem builders, and amused contempt is about the best you could hope for. For the most part, they hate this professor. I don't dare name names, but last time I mentioned it, 4 people said, "Oh, that's my city," and in 3 cases, it's kind of true. We don't know what our communities are thinking about us and what we're doing. We tend to be the ivory tower. It's all too seductive. That we have to be listening to the entrepreneurs. We need to listen to their champions, and listen to students, to the learners that are out there. And speaking of that, if you're going to do a great job of entrepreneurship, you are going to be disruptive as hell. If you're going to be great at humane entrepreneurship, you're going to be subversive as hell. Those of you know me, I'm huge on hardcore project-based learning, doing projects in the community, and I was teaching this class using the capstone class, and people were defecting from other capstone sessions to join my section because they're doing such wonderful stuff. I should point out, they were doing wonderful stuff. I was just ringleader. And I got called on the carpet and yelled at by the dean. I now think of that as a badge of honor, but we have to be thinking about it. But it's a reminder, if you take one thing away, if you get hit by a meteor and can't see the rest of this, students are our secret weapon, whether it's in terms of the learning and in education, and especially in terms of ecosystem. So let me proceed. Another contextual moment issue is, imagine, close your eyes and envision a playground, a primary school in Wales. And the kids are saying, what should we play at recess? And they yell, let's play entrepreneur. I'm not ashamed to say that I'm tearing up a little bit just repeating the story. Can you now imagine doing that in your community? We can get there. And I think humane entrepreneurship is one of the ways we do that. So what do we owe entrepreneurial learners? Let's start with the learners. We'll get to the ecosystem in a bit. We owe them the best. That we owe them the best pedagogy, the very best educators, the very best settings, the best ecosystem, the best research, and best assessment. I'll be coming back to that EPIC thing in a bit. Let me take these pairwise, pedagogy and educator. They're not independent, you need both. A great instructor can do wonderful things with a mediocre pedagogy. A great pedagogue will outstrip a great pedagogy and an average instructor. It's sort of like you want an A entrepreneur and a B idea versus the opposite. And this is true whether it's adult ed, community ed, higher ed, K-12 ed. So two ideas, two takeaways, the red arrows. One is curate a great entrepreneurial masterclass in your community. Every important topic like design thinking or MVPs, who is the best in your community at doing that? And today, we've learned that our community is global. So I want to do design thinking, I'm calling Andy Pendleton in Wales. I'm doing creativity, I reach out to Tina Seelig or Jeff Stamp. Create this masterclass and get the very best of the best participating. The other, for you policymakers, the Dutch PKO system that has spread to the UK. Imagine if you cannot stand in front of a classroom unless you've had 250 solid hours of professional training and education, theory and practice. Imagine what that would do with the entrepreneurship world to embrace that. Setting to entrepreneurship, it's great ecosystems offer lots of learning opportunities. Great learning grows the ecosystem. It's a lovely virtuous cycle if we go for it. One that I've spent a lot of time working on lately. There is no nice way to say that research on the impact of education is beyond dreadful. It's almost go by a gun level of awful, but it's understandable because you can't publish or perish. You have to get papers out. You don't have time to spend a year or two learning about a particular domain, and this one's particularly tricky. But assessment is it's imperative. Stakeholders are going to be asking for it, not just AACSB. Great, but who better to assess their impact than entrepreneurship? Again, curate, don't create. Go find the absolute best. This is the ICSB new professor model and others that I've been talking for a while. There are a couple of great tools that are out there for assessment. EPIC, which is HE Innovates comprehensive assessment tool, and EntreComp, you may have heard of that. Focus does a deep dive on skills. Oops. Okay, you want to know more about assessment, go to the World Congress Workshop on Assessment that Andy Gabby Kafka and I are doing. And if you're interested in a deeper dive on university engagement, there's a paper that Bethany Swartz and Diane Walsh and I are doing that will alternately enrage you and delight you. There's some other stuff here. Just leave links. You'll have the access to these slides. I just want to call your attention to one of my inspirations was Andy Paneluna's grenade, an education system fit for an entrepreneur. How do we do that? How do, rather than sitting in the ivory tower, how do we go out and do that? So let's turn to ecosystem, being on the clock and all. That it's very exciting. The one thing that takeaway that you need to have in all of this is we live in a stakeholder world. This is not a world of hierarchies. It's not a world of powerful institutions. Yes, they exist, but entrepreneurial ecosystems evolve bottom up, outside in, and it's all about the connections. Quick recap: you've seen it. A lot of you have seen this table before for me. But imagine our researchers are not getting these trends yet, but we're starting to get there. But if you want to talk to the ecosystem people, the champions, the ecosystem builders, the entrepreneurs, you need that right-hand column. There's also one I really like, HIPPOs. Highest paid person's opinion is what HIPPO stands for. The grand poobah, or do we talk to everyone? And I mean everyone, not just high tech, the low tech, men, women, non-binary, majority, minority, rural, urban. Great ecosystem building absolutely requires inclusion. In fact, I'm not sure that, I think inclusion drives the ecosystem building rather than the other way around. The Kauffman Foundation, you may have heard of, has this big initiative on the sport ecosystem called eShip. And this is a phenomenon whose time has come. And I would invite you to get involved. Contact me offline, and I would love to hook you up. So what do we owe our ecosystem? And never forget that they grow outside in. Never forget that this is about stakeholders. This is about talking to everyone. And to come back to Yogi Berra at the beginning, which I plugged in for you New Yorkers, listen, ask the entrepreneurs and hear what they're saying. Hear what they want, not what the experts say they need. Hear what they're actually saying. And that's hard to do, and be inclusive. Listen to all of the voices. You'll be amazed at what you hear. Supporting connections means supporting the connectors. That this ecosystem building model, the ecosystem builder model is incredibly important. One of the things that they've taught us is most people, including entrepreneurial support organizations, most of us are terrible at understanding our stakeholders. But that's something where, whether you're a policymaker, a university, or a private citizen, can help people, coach them to be better at stakeholder management. Again, I'm inviting you to join Kauffman's eShip. And again, number one takeaway, students are our secret weapon. Who are the ideal connectors from a university? It's not a center, it's not staff, it's not professors, it's the students. It is staggering how much the students can do to connect not only you to the ecosystem, but the pieces of the ecosystem. It's absolutely gobsmackingly marvelous. Another thought is curate, don't create. Don't reinvent the wheel. There's an incredible amount of talent out there, the ecosystem builders in communities, as well as people even on this, like Aeva on this call. And I'm going to harp again, the stakeholder mindset. That seems a subtle thing. But the essence of the ecosystem mindset is this relentless focus on stakeholders. And if I can help with any of this, I'm happy to do that. There's some more information on eShip and other things. I would point out, don't forget Global Entrepreneurship Week. You can see my button, that we need to be involved. we have work to do. So contact me. This slide, check me out. What I've been up to: LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. Started a LinkedIn group, Facebook group. Let's get busy. This happens to be from the Kauffman Foundation. These are my shoes. I am not wearing those. I'm wearing the brand new red high tops that I bought just for the occasion. So how can I help you change the narrative, build ecosystems as if humans really matter? How can I help you to change entrepreneurship, learning, and education as if humans really matter? And thank you for your time. Please stay in touch.
Thank you, Norris, for that very powerful presentation.
You want me to do admin too? I have to do a very different thing with my hair, but this is my rebellious hair, my COVID rebellion haircut. I wish I had a really good presentation.
Yeah, we'll have to hear that another time. But if anyone has questions, make sure you either use the Q&A function or the chat. I'd seen a question come in for Philipp's presentation earlier from Louise. They ask, quantitative integration offers many strengths, of course. Is there a place for qualitative approaches, perhaps in the future? Might these perspectives might help us to better understand the nuances of personality, cognition, and experience by complementing qualitative results?
Okay, thank you very much for this great and interesting question. So I'm definitely sure that qualitative and quantitative research have to play a role in future research, simply because both have unique aspects that can only really flourish if you combine both. And social entrepreneurship, I guess that we are all aware of this, is a field that is pretty much in the grassroots stage, so nothing like leadership or work design. So we are on the very first brink of getting to know with social entrepreneurship from a scientific perspective. So I'm definitely sure that qualitative research is needed. I personally have a quantitative focus. Probably you can have guessed this from my presentation. However, my central point on this question is that you mustn't lose your qualitative focus also. And the most strength that can evolve or can become research is by simply combining qualitative and quantitative research. This gets us to the most valuable insights. That's my point I would like to make right here. So stay qualitative if you're qualitative, and probably try to add some quantitative things as well.
Awesome. And then I saw a question from Mariya from Yeva. What are the advances in corporate and MSME financial management and reporting as to inclusion of real costs to nature? Is there an understanding that natural resources are limited, even the renewables, and that cost must be viewed with global perspective? One Earth perspective, developed countries get the resources and pollute everywhere elsewhere, ? So multifaceted question, but I think understanding what's the real cost to using these resources.
Thank you very much, Eva, for such a great question. It does have many sub-questions, but I'll start by saying that traditionally, when we look back at economics and the way it's taught, ecology wasn't actually included, and nature is free. And unfortunately, because it's free, it's ignored in most cases. And you're absolutely right here mentioning about costs. So it's all about putting a price, unfortunately, on those important goods. However, this is such a big debate around the world. So how do we actually price nature? And in terms of advanced nations and their impact on the way how they contribute to the climate change, I think one of my infographics just gave you a preview on carbon footprint, and it showed some of the biggest polluters in the world. And of course, historically, today I wanted to emphasize MSME's role as well, because historically everyone is talking about large corporations. But when we talk about MSMEs collectively around the world, their input is absolutely significant. And this is what I wanted to, I guess, bring to everyone's attention, that everyone has to think about sustainability and what it actually means. And unfortunately, over the past years, when we look back, so many questions were asked: profitability, profit, is it profitable to be sustainable or not? And I included that statement on purpose, that if we don't change things, there will be so many detrimental effects. Long-term profits will not matter. And that's important. If there is no planet, we don't have alternative planet, we don't have planet B. And I think collective action from all the stakeholders is important. In terms of pricing and introducing responsibilities, there is more and more debate about introducing international organization, not United Nations, but a dedicated international organization that would actually look into the climate risk and nations' input around the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariya. No, I find that interesting that you bring up another organization. I had a class maybe 2 semesters ago talking about, looking at organizations like WTO and how those organizations have power to regulate trade, but not, the environmental impact of that trade. And I think, that's definitely an impactful statement, that there needs to be another organization that really focuses on the environmental impact of, these businesses.
Thank you, Scott.
Eva has some comments, but thank you. And then I know some people were very excited about Norris's talk about the power of the student, and how, that what universities are really powerful, or what really gives universities power and professors is the students and the ideas they bring to the table. Norris, could you give a little bit more, I guess, insight on what?
Yeah, one of the things I found is one of the things that my class did in Boise was some of the team projects were helping our large federal research lab with their tech transfer. Undergraduates from a middle grade school shouldn't be able to do that. And the lab director thought the students' reports were more useful. In one case, they assigned the same project to McKinsey. And of course, that sounds really good, but McKinsey put 10 hours in. The students put 200, 250 hours in. And they also, for a lot of them, they're doing projects to save their, they think they're saving their hometown, their home state, that this stuff, and that's the power of project-based learning, is it's about authentic questions, things that matter. And if it's a question that matters to someone, it's like doubling their IQ. And it's just astounding. To me, it's always astounding. Even though I know it's true for me, and I have all this training in cognitive psychology, it still surprises me and believe me. Now that means when they go off the rails, they go way off the rails, but that's okay. That's life. But what so many people have found around the world is that tapping into it, because especially now in the digital age, these digital natives, the students are already connectors. They understand that it's about connecting. And they understand that it's about, they may not use the word stakeholder, but their first thought is, who can I connect with? Here's a project, who can I call who might know someone? That it's, it's something that we all can learn from. And if you think about, you've got a class of 40 students with different backgrounds. They're all bringing, individually, they may not know a whole hell of a lot in terms of task-specific knowledge, but collectively, they know an insane amount. And so that's very, very exciting. And if you want to change how people think at a very deep level, isn't that what that's what education's about. Everyone says we're being experiential, but are we changing how people think at a very deep level? Are we ingraining skills at a very deep level? And this is how we get there. And what I like about this entrepreneurship as a human process is it's an easy sell, but we still have to change the narrative. As Mariya pointed out, SMEs, MSMEs have a bigger impact on the world than we realize. 98% of jobs in Idaho are created by either growing local businesses or starting businesses. 2% of companies moving in. Where is the state's budget? 100% on that 2%. The EIS. that we need to figure out how to flip that narrative. People take SMEs for the positives they do, and yes, often their carbon footprint. I probably over-answered this question, so sorry about that. But I would love to have discussions about that moving forward. And P.S. do download that report and read the Chilean section. It's really cool.
That was really cool how you kind of touched on both Mariya's presentation and Phil's presentation about.
Well, I love intention stuff, and and there's probably if there's an accountant deep inside my soul, I'm hoping it's a green account.
That's awesome. We have about 3 more minutes. Is there any last questions before we conclude from the audience? Or
Audience,
from
you've got Mariya and Philip, you've got a golden opportunity to ask them questions.
Ladies first, right?
I'm sorry. Yeah, what did you say? I'm sorry. You got a blip there.
Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry, Norris, did you ask me a question? I missed that.
No, I was asking the audience as they have a golden opportunity to talk to you and Philip, who do such good work.
I think there's
audience,
a question for you.
I want to if we were live, and there's an live audience, we could wave at them and point at them and force them to ask questions.
Yeah, Luis asked you, Norris, how might we change from publish or perish to developing content on things that matter? Really good question.
Well, can we be self-serving for ICSB? That the journal of ICSB is a new journal that a lot of the journals are starting to be interested in stuff that moves the needle. That every journal is awash with nice little articles where there's nothing really wrong, and the author's mother doesn't care. You have to focus on the big questions, the great questions, the Richard Feynman type questions that matter. Is finding. I'm an optimist in that you do great work. Let's say on assessing the impact of education. A lot of viewers will not get it. Even some of the editors don't get it. But keep at it. We can help you find ways to get the word out, because I remember my first intentions article, people go, "Oh, how boring. Oh, wait, I can use that." Actually, they said, "I can steal that." And finding stuff that becomes an enabling technology for others, something that they want to steal, is certainly a place to start. The other angle is broader collaboration. I mean, I was a math major. I studied tensor calculus, and I still would rather have someone else do the math for me, research, because there are people who are as good as I might have once been. They're just so much better. The same way you're going to study education, find someone who's an expert on that, or they're studying the ecosystem. And the other thing I'm optimistic about is it's way overdue in academia for us to partner on writing with the practitioners. There are some wicked smart people out there helping to build ecosystems. So let's put our heads together on that.
Awesome. I want to give
did that help at all?
I want to give the opportunity for Mariya or Philip to chime in right before we close on this.
If I may add,
we're not leaving, Sky. We're staying, Sky.
If I may add, I think it's a absolutely great comment that Norris made, that university industry collaborations are the ones that I personally think are very strong. And also wanted to emphasize, I think perhaps academics thinks collaborating with large corporations is the only way to go. But again, don't forget about MSMEs. They present you with so much data, with so much information, and you can collaborate on so many wonderful projects that actually make impact. something that I wanted to emphasize. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. I can definitely join in. And also what Norris said, very important, just like let's empower the students, use students for the sake of us all. So I guess this is what makes university universal, right? So having us as educators and also the students, not only as persons being educated, but educating each other. So this is probably a thing that I would like to stress. And yeah, thank you to all our colleagues joining. It was a great pleasure to be here.
Thank you all.
Thank you,
panelists.
everyone.
Guy, could I say one thing real quick? In
Sure.
most countries, it's going to sound mercenary, but most countries, there is actually a lot of money to support research that involves undergraduates. Hint, hint. Just like Ayeva's report in Chile, that's on the chat, 2/3 of it was written by an undergrad. I hope she got it, or he or she got an A.
Yes, well, that's a good
Hey,
point.
Sky, great job. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, of course. Thank you
Thank you,
guys so
everyone.
much for your amazing presentations. Please use that link again. I'll drop in real quick to access the other sessions that will be happening at in like 3 minutes. So let me just do that. And I hope to see you all soon. Bye.
Yeah, but this was the best.
Thank
This was
you.
the best one. We had Mariya and Phillipp.